The corridor leading into the Dominion Command Hall felt like a throat carved from obsidian. Its angular walls pulsed with cold violet light, each pulse marking the heartbeat of the dreadnought's quantum spine. Rhea Solace walked in silence between two armored Varkal guards, her wrists bound with grav cuffs that hummed faintly against her skin. She neither struggled nor spoke. She simply observed every vibration, every breath, every shift in air pressure. Her senses were too attuned to ignore them. The door to the hall irised open. A surge of metallic air washed over her as she stepped inside. The Dominion believed in spectacle. The chamber was vast, circular, and oppressive, as if designed to crush the will of anyone brought here. Tiered platforms ringed the room, full of Varkal officers in rigid armor, their expressions rigid and hungry with expectation. In the center, raised on a platform of dark alloy, sat Captain Vorik Thul, broad-shouldered, long-armed, eyes like polished glass shards. His posture alone radiated domination. The hall was an extension of his ego. Rhea allowed her gaze to drift, careful not to provoke unnecessary attention. The architecture told its own story, everything angled downward, funneling focus toward the captain. The Dominion didn't merely want obedience, they wanted acknowledgement of power. "Human," Vorik announced, his voice carrying through hidden amplifiers. "Approach." A guard nudged her forward. She stepped toward the center, each footfall echoing like a measured countdown. Her heart stayed steady. She'd practiced calm for years, trained for crisis environments. But nothing in her training fully prepared her for being paraded like a captured animal. Still, she kept her back straight. Vorik leaned forward. His mandibles clicked softly, an alien gesture of anticipated amusement. "So this is the diplomatic prodigy the Concord sent to negotiate access through Varkal territory." His tone hovered between curiosity and mockery. "Rhea Solace, is it?" For a moment, the hall held its breath. Rhea lifted her chin. "Yes." He repeated her name, but twisted it deliberately. "Rhea Solace." The mispronunciation cut deeper than the insult. Her name was a thread to her culture, her ancestry, her identity. He hadn't stumbled. He had chosen to bend it. A faint tremor whispered beneath her feet. Most of the hall didn't notice. But Vorik's head tilted slightly, catching the shift. His amusement sharpened. He smelled opportunity. "Is that how fragile your species is? A minor distortion of sound, and you quiver?" She said nothing. She drew in a breath, slow and controlled, threading calm through a pressure creeping at the base of her skull. Her quantum sensitivity was stable at rest, but emotional disruption, especially insult, could disrupt equilibrium. She felt the whisper of a ripple forming in the surrounding field. "No. Not yet." One of the officers laughed. Another leaned forward, studying her like a peculiar artifact. A third muttered something about Deathworld exaggerations. Vorik rose from his seat. "Look at you. Quiet. Contained. I expected more from the species that unsettles the Concord with rumors of anomalous strength." His boots clanged against the metal as he descended the steps. "Where is the resistance? The fire? Or are you simply delicate?" Another tremor ran through the floor, so faint that only Rhea felt it fully. She shifted her stance, grounding herself. Vorik circled her. "You humans cling to your identities as if the galaxy owes them respect. Names, customs, pride." He stopped directly in front of her. But in Dominion space, only one identity matters. Her pulse remained slow, steady. "This one." He tapped his chest. Rhea met his gaze. "My name is Rhea Solace." "Rhea Solace," he repeated, dragging out the vowels. A sharper vibration rippled through the deck. This time a few officers exchanged glances. A low structural groan passed through the hall's supports. Vorik's lips curled into a sharper smile. "Oh? Did the ship disagree with me?" The captain's tone held mock concern. "How curious." Rhea pressed her tongue to the roof of her mouth, trying to dissipate the rising charge building behind her eyes. Her instructors always described emotional triggers as sparks near dry tinder. Control required smothering them before they ignited. But she was exhausted, bruised, and standing under the weight of humiliation. And Vorak knew exactly where to press. He drifted behind her, studying her restrained hands. "I hear your crew is in the brig." Cooperative, terrified, hoping their diplomat will save them. He paused. "Pity that I have no intention of negotiating their release." She closed her eyes for a brief second. Her crew, 8 humans, all younger than her, were depending on her calm. Another vibration thrummed through the floor. Vorak stepped close enough for her to feel the heat of his breath on her shoulder. "So tell me again, human. What is your name?" Rhea inhaled through her nose. "Rhea Solace." "Rhea Sa." A sharp crack pierced the air. The sound was unmistakable, metal yielding under unseen force. The deck plate directly beneath Rhea's feet split in a jagged fracture, thin but undeniably real. A few Dominion officers stiffened. Several leaned forward, brows furrowed. Vorak froze mid-step. The hall dimmed by a fraction as the overhead lights flickered. A holographic tactical display blinked twice before stabilizing again. Rhea opened her eyes. Vorak exhaled slowly, observing the fracture with a hint of satisfaction. "Interesting. Very interesting." His gaze slid back to her. "Your species reacts physically to disrespect? How wonderfully primitive." "What you said was intentional," she replied, voice controlled, almost soft. "Of course it was." He circled back into view. "Everything I do is intentional." The tremor in the air hadn't faded, it sat like a held breath, waiting for a trigger. Rhea tightened her core muscles, anchoring herself to the floor. Vorak raised one hand, inviting the hall to witness. "Observe, officers. The human stands before us trying desperately to remain composed. But even their posture betrays them. Such tension. Such strain." Rhea did not move. Her silence only fueled his arrogance. "You are in Dominion custody," he continued. "You have no leverage, no bargaining power, and no protection." He leaned in close, voice low enough that only she heard the next line. "Break, little human. Show me what lies beneath that quiet." She met his stare without blinking. "Say my name correctly." Her tone was neither threat nor plea, it was a boundary, a final line drawn with steady hands. Vorak's smile widened. "Rhea Solace." The fracture deepened silently. Above them, a single dust particle drifted downward in a slow spiral, a tiny, almost imperceptible sign of a shifting gravitational microfield. Most would dismiss it. Vorak did not. He stepped back, studying the air around her. Fascinating. Rhea steadied her breathing, pushing against the rising pulse threatening to bloom. She had held it together this long, she could hold it a little longer. But then Vorak spoke again, calm, deliberate, certain of his dominion. "You will break soon enough, Rhea Solace," he said, this time using her correct name only because the situation demanded control. "And when you do, I intend to be watching." Rhea looked up at him, her eyes steady, her voice level. "You already are." And for the first time, a faint line of concern creased the captain's polished composure, because the ship itself seemed to be listening. The fracture in the deck had not sealed. It spread in a thin, branching line, subtle yet undeniable, as if the metal had quietly surrendered. Officers around the chamber shifted uneasily, their initial amusement replaced by a restrained alertness. Even the hum of the ship's systems had altered, adopting a faint undertone like a warning buried beneath machinery. Captain Vorak resumed his place with deliberate slowness, masking the flicker of curiosity sharpening his movements. "Let us proceed," he announced, forcing the hall back into its orchestrated discipline. The human's reaction was a coincidence. Nothing more. Rhea Solace stood absolutely still, wrists bound, shoulders aligned. But inside, she felt the shift, the thin membrane between her composure and something far larger had grown fragile. Her training echoed through her mind, emotions shaped quantum disturbances. Control your state, and you control the field. Lose it, and the field acts without aim. She would not allow it to spiral. Vorak flicked his hand. A holographic projection flared to life beside him, displaying a map of human colonies near Dominion borders. You came to negotiate passage, he said, pacing slowly. What were your superiors thinking, sending a single cadet into my space? I volunteered, she answered. Of course you did. His voice curled with disdain. Humans are fond of unnecessary bravery. Rhea kept her gaze steady. Bravery isn't unnecessary when someone's life depends on it. Then your crew is doomed, Vorak replied. Consider this part of your education. A murmur traveled through the officers. Some watched Rhea with cold expectation, waiting for fear to surface. But fear was not what tightened her chest. It was responsibility, and the rising distortion she struggled to suppress. Vorak stepped closer. Perhaps you misunderstand your situation. He zoomed the projection inward, highlighting a human outpost. Tell me what defenses this colony holds. I won't compromise anyone's safety, Rhea said. What safety? Vorak countered. They exist under false hope. Empires like mine decide their fates, not fragile diplomats. The lights flickered once, brief, sharp, and synchronized. Vorak paused mid-stride. Rhea exhaled slowly, praying the shift had gone unnoticed. The field around her was tightening, pressing against its own boundaries. Tiny ripples crawled through the air, too faint for most, but not for her. She needed to center herself. Look at me when I speak to you, Vorak commanded. She raised her gaze. Better, he said. Now answer my question. I will not betray my people. Vorak's expression darkened. Stubborn. Predictable. But irrelevant. He walked behind her, his voice echoing across the chamber. You claim to be a diplomat, yet you bring nothing to the table except silence. No leverage. No power. No reason for me to permit your continued existence. Another vibration traveled up through Rhea's boots, like a pulse from the ship's spine. Vorak noticed. He leaned closer, studying her posture, her breathing. There it is again. The tremor. Are you doing something, human? Or is the dreadnought itself protesting your presence? I'm not doing anything, Rhea replied softly. But you're pushing too hard. He narrowed his eyes. Do not attempt to advise me. A Dominion lieutenant approached. Captain, internal sensors registered a microfluctuation near the central platform. Vorak waved him off. Minor instability. Continue observation. But the lieutenant didn't retreat. Sir, the fluctuation originated at the prisoner's coordinates. The chamber fell silent. Vorak's expression shifted from irritation to intrigue. Is that so? Rhea fought to control the tremble in her diaphragm. The fluctuations were no longer faint, they pressed outward like a slow tide. She anchored her thoughts on her crew, their faces, their trust. She needed stability. For them. For herself. Vorak stepped directly in front of her again. You are becoming interesting, Rhea Solace. She said nothing. Or should I say, he paused, lips curling, Rhea. A hologram beside him shattered into static. The sudden distortion snapped through the hall, making officers flinch. The light dimmed again, this time lingering for 2 full seconds before recovering. Vorak froze. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. Whispered speculation passed through the rows. Rhea inhaled sharply, focusing on slow, deliberate rhythm. She had to keep the field contained. If her emotions burst outward, containment wouldn't be possible. Vorak took 1 step back, studying the broken hologram. That was not structural, he murmured. Nor mechanical. He turned his gaze to her again. It reacts when I speak incorrectly, doesn't it? Don't, Rhea said. Just don't. Her voice was calm, but there was a thin layer beneath it, an invisible tension that pulled the chamber taut. Vorak's mandibles flexed in amusement. So the rumors of quantum affinity humans were not myths. He began to walk around her again, hands clasped behind his back. Tell me, human, what happens when your restraint fails? The pressure around her thickened. She felt it gathering behind her ribs like a storm compressed into a heartbeat. I don't want it to fail, she answered. That, Vorak said, did not answer my question. Because you don't want the real answer. On the contrary. He stopped behind her, lowering his voice. I want to witness your limits. The field around her flickered dangerously. Gravity dipped for a fraction of a second, barely perceptible, but enough for several officers to stumble subtly. Every Dominion face turned toward her with new caution. She destabilized the gravity pocket, one officer whispered. No, said another. The pocket collapsed around her. Vorak raised a hand for silence. Humans brag about their resilience. But resilience implies fragility. You break first, then recover. I want to see the breaking. Rhea clenched her hands as much as the cuffs allowed. The rising pulse was seconds away from spiking. I'm warning you, she said carefully. This is not something you want to provoke. Vorak laughed softly. You are in no position to warn me. He stepped forward until he stood inches from her face. Tell me your name. Rhea Solace. And now let me hear it the way I choose to say it. No. Rhea Solace. The floor vibrated with sudden force. Weapons holstered along the officers' belts buzzed softly, their power cells momentarily destabilized. A thin line of dust drifted from the ceiling. The countdown had started. Rhea felt the moment lock into place, the instant of definitive imbalance. She struggled to breathe evenly. Her body recognized the fracturing control before her mind could adjust. Vorak continued speaking, unaware of the threshold crossed. Loose. 10 seconds. That was the window her instructors had warned about. In 10 seconds, the field would correct itself. In 10 seconds, the ship would respond. In 10 seconds, something irreversible would happen. Vorak stood proudly before her, oblivious to the danger. The officers watched with growing unease. The floor beneath Rhea warmed, then cooled sharply. She whispered, please step back. Vorak smirked. Make me. 7 seconds. The air thickened. 5 seconds. The lights dimmed again, longer this time. 3 seconds. A low hum rose beneath her feet. 2 seconds. Her pulse synchronized with the anomaly. 1 second. The chamber inhaled. Waiting for reality to shift. The chamber exhaled with a hollow tremor as reality bent inward. A faint shimmer radiated from the platform where Rhea stood, a distortion like heat above a desert horizon. Every Varkal officer froze, their instincts warning them before logic could assemble the threat. Vorak remained inches from her, oblivious to the invisible tide swelling around her heartbeat. The grav cuffs dissolved. Not burst. Not snapped. They simply unwove into a drifting cascade of luminous particles that faded before touching the floor. Rhea didn't move. She remained still, anchored through her heels, breath steady, gaze lowered. But the field around her expanded, subtle and terrifying. A Dominion technician reached for his console. The panel flickered, then quietly shut down, its circuitry refusing to function in the shifting environment. Captain, someone whispered, there's a containment anomaly forming. Vorak silenced him with a raised hand. His attention locked fully on Rhea now. Impressive. But theatrics don't intimidate me. The distortion thickened, a faint hum threading through the hall. Weapons along the walls rattled softly, their internal gyroscopes faltering. Air currents twisted, pulling slightly toward Rhea, a gravitational microspiral forming around her without her intent. Rhea finally lifted her eyes. Step back, she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. No amplifier, no threat, yet the weight of her words pressed into the air like a shift in atmospheric density. Vorak ignored it. All this because I mispronounced a name? 10 seconds had passed. And the ship reacted. A sudden lurch swept through the chamber. Officers grabbed railings. The overhead lights dimmed until only the eerie glow from Rhea's distortion illuminated their faces. The dreadnought's AI activated without command, projecting a crimson alert across the walls. Quantum field deviation detected. Source: central platform. Gasps broke through the silence. Vorak's composure flickered. She's manipulating the ship's core? No, Rhea answered softly. The ship is reacting to you. A metallic groan resonated through the floor. A sleek Dominion soldier raised his weapon out of instinct. The moment his hand tightened, the rifle bent, curving gently as though sculpted by invisible hands, before slipping from his grip and clattering harmlessly to the ground. He stumbled backward, eyes wide. Captain. Rhea didn't look at him. She focused entirely on maintaining balance within the expanding field. She wasn't trying to harm anyone. She was holding back as much as possible. But the anomaly had crossed the threshold, reality was aligning defensively around her identity. Vorak, stubborn and refusing to yield, took another step toward her. Your abilities don't concern me. You're still just... The gravity inverted. Only for 1 second. Enough to lift every Dominion officer, every piece of armor, every weapon, every loose fragment into the air. Rhea alone remained grounded, her boots magnetized by the field clinging to stable reality around her. Gasps erupted as bodies drifted upward, suspended like puppets caught in an unseen snare. Vorak's feet left the floor. His fingers clawed at empty air. Rhea extended her hand, not in aggression, but in control. The inversion stopped. Everyone dropped back to the floor with controlled precision, as if gently placed by unseen hands. No one was injured. No chaos, only stunned disbelief. Vorak landed hardest. His armor clanged. His pride cracked. He pushed himself up, trembling with a mixture of rage and confusion. What, are you? Rhea took a step forward. The distortion around her pulsed once, steady and calm. The ship's alarms quieted, responding to her stabilization. Even the lights brightened slightly, as if the dreadnought itself deferred to her calm. My name is Rhea Solace. Her tone was quieter than a whisper, yet every ear in the chamber heard it. Vorak tried to speak. Ray. His jaw locked. He tried again, forcing the mispronunciation. Nothing came out. His throat constricted as if the sound itself had been removed from possibility. Reality denied the insult. The quantum field corrected the offense before it formed, silencing it at the source. Vorak's eyes widened in true fear. The hall erupted into murmurs. Officers recoiled. No Dominion doctrine had prepared them for a human whose existence bent physics. Rumors had circulated about Deathworld anomalies, but seeing it, feeling it, was different. Captain, one officer said shakily, the ship's core is stabilizing around her. It's recognizing her as a dominant field source. Vorak staggered back, his arrogance dissolving with each unsteady breath. This is impossible. It's not impossible, Rhea said. It's simply cause and effect. She moved past him with slow, controlled steps. The field followed her like a loyal tide. The guards near the brig controls scrambled aside as she approached. The energy barrier holding her crew flickered, then collapsed, its structure unable to remain coherent within her proximity. 8 humans stepped out, fear in their eyes, but relief blooming behind it. Rhea, her pilot whispered. What did they do to you? Nothing, she said. But they tried. She turned back toward Vorak. The Dominion will release every human prisoner on this ship. Immediately. Vorak hesitated, breath trembling. And, she continued, you will withdraw from human-aligned space. No more coerced treaties. No more erasure of identity. You cannot give orders here, Vorak said, though the conviction in his voice had thinned to a thread. Rhea didn't argue. She let the ship speak for her. A deep resonance pulsed through the hull, an unmistakable message from the dreadnought's core. A warning, a plea, And a threat rolled into one. The AI flared back to life. Field priority shift, human presence recommended. The Dominion officers paled. The dreadnought, a vessel revered for its unbreakable systems, had declared preference toward the very prisoner standing calmly at its center. Vorik sank slowly to one knee, not in reverence, but in defeat. "Fine," he whispered. "We will comply." Rhea breathed out, long and steady, letting the field recede. The distortion softened, collapsing inward until the air normalized. The lights steadied. Gravity equalized. The ship resumed function with a relieved hum, systems returning online one by one. Her crew gathered close, watching her with awe and gratitude. She gestured for them to follow. No Dominion soldier dared block their path. As she reached the doorway, she paused and glanced back at the captain. Vorik met her gaze, silent, shaken, but no longer defiant. Rhea offered only one final sentence. "Some names," she said, "the universe itself protects." Then she stepped through the doors, her presence leaving the chamber lighter, quieter, as if reality itself exhaled in relief. Behind her, the Dominion dreadnought obeyed. And in the silence that followed, every officer understood one truth they would never forget. A human corrected by name is one thing. A universe correcting you on their behalf was something else entirely. The dreadnought's corridors no longer felt hostile as Rhea guided her crew toward the docking bay. Dominion soldiers stood rigid along the walls, not as threats but as silent witnesses, their expressions strained with conflicted awe. None raised a weapon. None even shifted their posture. The air itself seemed to clear a path for her as the anomaly surrounding her slowly dissipated into equilibrium. Her crew stayed close. Some walked with cautious steps, still processing what they'd seen. Others glanced around, expecting some trap or reversal. Rhea felt their confusion pressing like a silent question. What had she become while they were held captive? Before she could address them, the dreadnought itself answered. A tonal chime resonated through the corridor, not an alarm, but a system recalibration. Panels lining the walls displayed a message in Dominion script. Core field stable, source, human presence confirmed. Her navigator swallowed hard. "Rhea, did the ship just call you a stabilizing source?" She didn't slow her stride. "It's adjusting after the anomaly. It's nothing more." Her engineer shook his head. "Nothing more? You bent gravity. You silenced the captain mid-taunt. This ship, this legendary Varkal war engine, is listening to you." Rhea paused briefly, then said, "It's responding to the quantum shift. It's not listening to me. It's reacting to what almost happened." "Almost," her pilot echoed. "That wasn't almost. That was." Rhea turned, her expression steady. "We're leaving. Debate it later." Her crew followed, trust outweighing questions. But as they progressed deeper toward the docking bay, Dominion technicians emerged from side corridors, bowing their heads, not in submission, but in caution. They treated her presence not as a victory of an enemy, but as a delicate phenomenon. The dreadnought's internal sensors flickered in subdued patterns whenever she passed, adjusting microfields to maintain structural comfort around her. One technician dared to speak. "Human, the captain requests one final word." Rhea didn't break stride. He already had plenty. But the technician stepped back, palms up. "He insists. And he fears denying you a voice may trigger another deviation." Her crew exchanged looks. Rhea inhaled. "Fine. Where is he?" The technician gestured toward a junction behind them. "Observation chamber." Rhea turned to her team. "Wait at the bay. I won't be long." Her navigator protested. "We're not letting you go alone again." Rhea's voice remained calm. "There's no danger now." The ship hummed once in agreement, an unintentional but persuasive argument. After a moment of hesitation, her crew moved on. Rhea changed direction. The observation chamber. The chamber overlooked the drifting moon of Illusor, its cracked surface reflecting starlight like shattered silver. Captain Vorak stood near the transparent hull, hands clasped behind him. His armor remained immaculate, but his posture no longer radiated dominance. It was stiff, as if forced into the shape of discipline after something had broken inside. He didn't turn when she entered. "I needed clarity," he said quietly. "The officers are questioning my judgment. I cannot blame them." Rhea stopped 3 steps behind him. "You brought this on yourself." He nodded once. "Perhaps." A breath shook through him. But the anomaly, this phenomenon, what exactly was it? Not the rumors. Not the propaganda. Truth. "You wouldn't understand," she said. "Try me." She studied his rigid back. The man who once reveled in humiliation now stood hollowed by reality's correction. She chose her words carefully. "Humans are sensitive to quantum instability," she said. "Some more than others. When pushed emotionally, that sensitivity spikes. It can distort local fields." "Distort?" Vorak turned halfway toward her. "You nearly made the ship rewrite its operating logic." "It wasn't deliberate," she replied. "That terrifies me more." Rhea looked past him, out at the fractured moon. "I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was holding everything in place. If the anomaly had cascaded, it would have torn the dreadnought apart from the molecular frame outward." Vorak inhaled sharply. "And you restrained that? While I stood inches away, taunting you?" "Yes." He lowered his gaze. Silence settled between them, a silence far heavier than his earlier theatrics. He was a man wrestling with a truth that didn't fit into his worldview. After a long pause, he said, "Dominion doctrine teaches us that humans exaggerate their capabilities. That your species survived by luck, not strength. That the galaxy fears you because it misinterprets your erratic nature." He exhaled slowly. "But if even a fraction of what I witnessed today is normal—" "It's not normal," Rhea cut in. "Most humans never trigger anomalies. Most never need to. We're not walking weapons. We're living beings. You crossed a line, Vorak. You stripped away dignity, then demanded compliance. That's what provoked the shift, not your mispronunciation alone, but everything attached to it." Vorak stared at her openly now, the arrogance erased. "Then teach me." Rhea blinked. "Teach you?" "Yes." His voice softened, strangely earnest. "Teach me what humans require for peace. What boundaries must not be crossed. What respect looks like to your species." He hesitated. "If my empire is to coexist with yours, we cannot continue under false assumptions." Rhea considered him. This was not the man who had paraded her into the hall. This was someone forced to face the consequences of his own ignorance. "Start with this," she said. "Names matter. Identity matters. When you twist someone's name to assert power, you undermine the foundation of diplomacy." Vorak nodded slowly. "Then I owe you a correction." He squared his stance, drew a steady breath, and spoke with deliberate clarity. "Rhea Solace." For the first time since the anomaly began, the air felt still, balanced, quiet, accepting. Rhea gave a small nod. "That's all it took." Vorak exhaled, as though releasing the last remnants of misguided certainty. "I will honor the agreement," he said. "All human prisoners will be released. Our fleets will withdraw from contested borders. And I will revise our doctrine to reflect what I learned today." Rhea stepped toward the exit. "Good. Then this doesn't have to happen again." Vorak stopped her with one final question. "Will we meet again? Only if you forget what you learned." And with that, she walked out. Departure. Her crew waited at the docking bay ramp, nerves easing when she approached. The shuttle's hatch was open, engines prepped. Her engineer approached her cautiously. "Are we in the clear?" "Yes," Rhea said. "We're going home." They boarded, buckled in, and as the shuttle disengaged, the dreadnought held its position. No pursuit. No threat. Just thousands of Dominion soldiers watching the vessel of a single human drift away, quietly, respectfully. As the stars stretched into streaks of light, her pilot whispered, "Rhea, whatever happened back there, thank you." She closed her eyes. "Names carry weight," she murmured. "And sometimes, the universe ensures they're carried correctly." The shuttle vanished into hyperspace. And behind them, on a Dominion dreadnought where arrogance once ruled, a single name settled into history, not as a warning, nor a threat, but as a truth etched into the fabric of reality. Rhea Solace.